The smell of roasted turkey and cinnamon filled the air as snow quietly fell outside. The house looked warm, golden, and peaceful, as if nothing in the world could go wrong that night. It was Christmas Eve, and my father had invited everyone for dinner, hoping to bring the family together again after years of distance and unspoken tension. I hadn't seen him in almost a year. We talked sometimes on the phone, short and polite conversations, but nothing deep. Ever since my parents separated, things had been complicated. I lived with my mother, while Dad moved to another town. Still, he always tried to stay connected, sending messages, asking about school, and reminding me to visit. When I walked into his house that evening, I felt a mix of warmth and nervousness. Everything looked perfect. The Christmas tree shimmered with golden lights. The table was set beautifully, and soft music played in the background. Dad smiled when he saw me, a little unsure but happy. "Look at you," he said with a proud smile. "All grown up." I smiled back. For a moment, it felt like old times. Mom arrived soon after, dressed neatly, her smile polite but cold. The air shifted slightly when she entered, like a sudden breeze through a quiet room. They greeted each other carefully, as if one wrong word could break the peace. We all sat around the big wooden table, me, Dad, Mom, and my little brother. The candles flickered softly. Everyone tried to sound cheerful, but beneath the laughter was something fragile, like a truth waiting to be discovered. Dad lifted his glass and said, "To family." We all smiled and clinked glasses, unaware that one simple question, asked only minutes later, would change everything. Dinner started with quiet laughter and the soft clinking of cutlery. The warm glow of candles danced on the table as everyone helped themselves to food. Dad carved the turkey, proudly explaining how he'd followed a recipe from an old family cookbook. Mom nodded politely, complimenting the flavor but barely tasting her food. I sat between them, trying to keep the conversation light. My little brother talked about his new video games, and for a short while, it actually felt like a normal family dinner, full of warmth and smiles. But underneath, there was something uneasy. I could feel it in the way Dad's hands trembled slightly when he poured the wine, and the way Mom avoided looking directly at him. Dad leaned back in his chair after a while and smiled at me. "So," he said casually, "I hope the allowance I've been sending every month is helping you out. Is it enough for your expenses?" The words hung in the air for a moment. I froze, confused. "Allowance?" I asked softly, setting down my fork. Mom's hand paused midair. My brother stopped chewing. The room suddenly felt colder. Dad frowned a little. "Yes, the money I've been transferring to you every month. You've been getting it, right?" I shook my head slowly. "No, Dad, I've never received anything." The sound of laughter and clinking glasses faded into silence. Mom's face went pale. Dad's expression hardened. The dinner that began with smiles was about to turn into something none of us would ever forget. Dad blinked in disbelief, his fork frozen halfway to his mouth. "Wait," he said slowly, as if trying to make sense of my words. "You're telling me you never got the money I sent every month?" I shook my head, my voice barely a whisper. "No, I didn't even know you were sending anything." The silence in the room was heavy. Mom looked down at her plate, her fingers nervously twisting her napkin. My brother's wide eyes darted between us, unsure what was happening. Dad's voice grew sharper, though he tried to stay calm. "I've been sending money every month since you started college, directly to help you. I made sure of it." Mom finally spoke, forcing a small laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, that, yes, I meant to tell you. I've been keeping it safe for her. You know, just in case she needed it later." Her words sounded thin, like paper ready to tear. Dad set down his glass slowly. "For her? Or for you?" Mom's smile vanished. "Don't start this here," she said quietly, her voice shaking. But Dad didn't stop. 3 years, Linda. 3 years of money. Gone. And she never saw a single cent. My stomach twisted. My hands felt cold. I wanted to say something, to stop them, but the words wouldn't come out. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear anything else. Mom's tone turned defensive. "Do you think raising 2 kids alone is cheap? You left, remember? I did what I had to do. Dad's face darkened. That money was meant for her future, not your pride. The air in the room felt thick, almost unbreathable. I stared at the tablecloth, wishing I could disappear. The Christmas lights behind us kept blinking, unaware that the peace they were meant to bring had shattered completely. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about money. It was about trust and all the years of silence that finally came crashing down at one dinner table. The tension exploded like a storm that had been waiting for years to break. Dad pushed his chair back slightly, his voice rising. I trusted you, Linda. I thought you were using that money to support her, not to cover your own mistakes. Mom slammed her fork down, her eyes flashing. Mistakes? You think raising these kids alone was a mistake? You have no idea what it's been like. John, you left, and I had to manage everything by myself. You could have told me, he shouted. Instead, you lied for years. I didn't lie, she shot back, her voice trembling. I just didn't tell you everything. I was drowning in bills, in debt, and you... Don't twist this. Dad interrupted, his voice shaking with anger. You took what wasn't yours. That money belonged to her. I sat frozen in my seat, my hands gripping the edge of the table. My brother looked terrified, his eyes filling with tears. The holiday music playing softly in the background now felt painfully out of place. Mom's face was red, tears beginning to form. You sent a few $100s a month and thought that fixed everything? You think money replaces being there? You think it replaces the nights I stayed up worrying, the times we couldn't afford food? Dad's jaw clenched. Don't make this about me. I did what I could, but you had no right to hide it from her. The room felt like it was spinning. My chest ached as I looked between them. Two people who once loved each other, now tearing each other apart over me. Finally, I stood up, my voice breaking. Stop it, both of you. They fell silent, breathing heavily, eyes full of pain and blame. I looked at Mom, my voice barely audible. You should have told me, Mom. I worked extra shift because I thought we were struggling, but all this time there was money. Her lips trembled. She looked down, unable to meet my eyes. Dad sighed deeply, rubbing his temples. This isn't just about money anymore, he muttered. It's about what we lost along the way. And in that quiet moment, I realized the truth. This dinner had destroyed what little peace was left between us. The house fell into uneasy silence after the argument. No one spoke for several minutes. Only the faint crackle of the fireplace filled the room. My heart was pounding, and I could still hear the echo of my father's voice in my head. Finally, Dad stood up and said quietly, I want to see something. He pulled his phone from his pocket, scrolling quickly through his banking app. His hands trembled slightly as he opened the transfer records. He turned the screen toward us. Look, he said firmly, every month, same date, same amount, sent directly to your mother's account. I labeled every payment for Emma's allowance. My eyes moved across the glowing screen. Dozens of transactions stared back at me. A record of 3 years of quiet trust. I felt a lump rise in my throat. Mom stayed silent, her face pale. Dad's voice broke slightly. I worked extra hours for that money. I thought I was helping. All this time, you let me believe she was getting what she needed. Tears filled my eyes. Images flashed in my mind. The nights I skipped dinner to save money. The times I turned down friends because I couldn't afford outings. The stress of juggling 2 part-time jobs. And all along, the money was there, hidden in plain sight. Why, Mom? I whispered. Why didn't you just tell me? Her voice was weak when she finally answered. I didn't mean to hurt you. The bills kept piling up, and I didn't want to ask your father for more. I thought I'd pay it back later. Dad shook his head slowly. Later never came. Mom's tears spilled over. I was scared, she admitted. Scared to look like a failure. I stared at her, torn between anger and heartbreak. For a moment, no one spoke. The truth was finally out, but it didn't feel like relief. It felt like loss, the kind of loss that comes when the people you love stop being who you thought they were. The silence in the room was unbearable. The only sound was the ticking of the old clock on the wall, each second echoing like a heartbeat. I looked at Mom. her face pale and streaked with tears, and I felt something inside me twist. For years, I had trusted her completely. She was the one who told me everything would be okay when Dad left, the one who held me through sleepless nights. And now, she was the one who had kept the truth from me. I took a deep breath, my voice trembling. You could have told me, Mom. I would have understood. You didn't have to hide it from me. She looked up, her lips trembling. I know, she whispered. I didn't want you to worry. I was already failing at everything. I didn't want you to see that. Dad stood by the window, his hands in his pockets, his expression heavy. You didn't fail, he said quietly. You just forgot that honesty matters more than pride. Mom covered her face with her hands and began to cry. I was scared, John. Every month felt like another mountain to climb. I told myself it was for the family, that one day I'd tell her the truth. I swallowed hard. My voice came out softer this time. But you didn't. You let me believe we had nothing, when you could have helped me. Do you know how small that made me feel? She lowered her hands slowly. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice breaking. I didn't mean to hurt you. I wanted to be angry, to yell, to demand an explanation that would make it all make sense. But I couldn't. Instead, I just felt tired. Dad finally spoke again, his tone calm but cold. Money can be earned again. But trust, once it's gone, it takes a long time to come back. No one said another word. The Christmas lights blinked softly in the corner, their glow reflected in the tears on Mom's face. And though the truth had finally been spoken, it didn't heal anything. It only left behind a silence too heavy for words. The next morning, the house felt different. Quieter, colder. The cheerful sparkle of Christmas had faded overnight, leaving behind an emptiness that seemed to hang in the air. I woke up to the faint sound of dishes clinking in the kitchen. When I walked downstairs, Mom's chair at the table was empty. Only a folded note rested where she had sat the night before. My chest tightened as I picked it up. The note was short and shaky, written in her familiar handwriting. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to fix what I broke. I'll give you both space. Please don't hate me. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to cry. Another part just felt numb. Dad stood by the window, holding a cup of coffee. He looked tired but calm, like someone who had already accepted the truth. She left early, he said quietly. Said she needed time to think. I nodded slowly, sitting down at the table. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't angry anymore, just heavy. After a while, Dad placed an envelope in front of me. I opened a new account, he said. This time, it's in your name. No middlemen. You'll handle it yourself. I looked up at him, surprised. He smiled faintly. You're old enough now, and you deserve to know everything, no secrets. Tears welled in my eyes. I nodded, unable to speak. We ate breakfast quietly, toast and coffee that neither of us really tasted. Outside, snow continued to fall, soft and endless, covering everything in white. As I watched it drift down, I thought about Mom, how love and fear had led her to a choice she couldn't undo. And though I didn't hate her, I knew things would never be the same again. Weeks passed after that night, but the memory of the dinner never faded. Sometimes I could still hear the echo of my father's voice, the sound of Mom's quiet sobs, and the silence that followed, the kind of silence that changes everything. Mom didn't come home right away. She stayed with my aunt for a while, sending short messages now and then. I'm sorry. I hope you're okay. I always replied with a simple, I'm fine, though I wasn't sure it was true. Dad and I grew closer. He called more often, asked about my studies, and visited whenever he could. He was trying not just to fix what was broken, but to build something new. I started managing my own allowance, saving carefully, learning to be independent. But every time I opened my bank app and saw his transfers, a small ache tugged at my chest, a reminder of how easily trust can be misplaced. One snowy afternoon, Mom came to visit. She looked smaller somehow, her eyes tired but gentle. We sat in the living room, a long pause between us before she finally whispered, I don't expect you to forgive me yet. I just hope you'll understand one day. I nodded slowly. I do, Mom, I said, but it still hurts. She smiled sadly. I know. When she left, I sat by the window, watching the snow fall again, just like it had that Christmas night. I thought about how one simple question had uncovered years of secrets, lies, and love twisted by fear. Sometimes, I wish it hadn't happened, but deep down I knew it needed to, because truth, no matter how painful, is the only thing strong enough to rebuild what silence destroys. And as I watched the world outside turn white once more, I realized healing doesn't come all at once. It comes quietly like snow, soft, slow, and beautiful in its own time.